So finally, the firmware 3.0 for the Sony A7 III is here. I'm going to quickly show you how to upload it onto your camera, and then I'm going to show you what we've got in this new firmware. I've put a link in the description below that'll take you to the firmware update page. Make sure you download the correct one for the operating system that you're using. I know with the last firmware update, there are a few problems with different operating systems, so make sure you have access to different computers and different operating systems just in case. They should be okay, but I'm just saying that because I know there were a few issues with different operating systems, especially on the Mac. You'll also need your multi-port cable that came with the camera. I think this is the one that came with mine, but I'm going to try it anyway. First things first, make sure your battery is fully charged. I use the Sony one that came with the camera. Remove the SD card if there's one in your camera. If you use third-party batteries, I've heard that there's not too much of a problem with those. It just flashes up the warning when you put the battery in the camera and turn it on. I've got links in the description to each operating system. So if you're using Windows, go to the Windows link. If you're using a Mac, click on the Mac link. I'm using the 10.14 operating system on a Mac. You need 600 megabytes of space on your hard drive and 512 megabytes of RAM. These specs are pretty low, so most computers will work. With your camera, make sure the USB connection on setup page 4 of 7 is on mass storage. So I'm using a Mac, so I'm going to click on this one that says version 3 Mac. On this page, it gives you the benefits and improvements in this list down here, and also it has a written out way to upload the firmware to your camera. So click on the download button, scroll to the bottom of this, and then click on download. So it looks like they have an additional stage to download the new firmware. I haven't got an account with Sony, so I'm going to create an account for download now. If you already have an account on the Sony page, sign in and then it'll let you download the new firmware. Once you've created an account and verified it with an email, it'll start to download the firmware. All you need to do is wait for this to download now. Once the file is downloaded, find out where it's gone, and then double click on the DNG file. So I'm going to double click on this and expand it. If you're on a PC, you might have to extract it. Next thing I'm going to do is click on this update setting tool. Sometimes your Mac will give you this warning. Yeah, I know I've downloaded it from a reputable source, so I'm going to open and put in your password. Then it asks you to connect the device to the computer with the USB cable. You need to make sure you're using the micro USB port, not the USB-C port on your camera. If it doesn't show up, try disconnecting and reconnecting, or use a different USB port. If this still doesn't work, try a different USB cable. I've got a Mac with USB-C ports, so I have to use one of these annoying adapters. I then use the cable that came with the camera and plug it into this adapter. Now it's plugged in, I'll click on OK. Yep. Okay. If that doesn't do anything, then click on Resources, and then click on System Software Updater. Then click on Open, and this will open the Updater program. So in this program, it goes through the stages again. I've done all this, so I'm going to click on Next. Next, it's going to try and find the camera. As you can see, my current version is 2.0. I didn't actually update the firmware to the 2.1. One last thing I need to do before uploading is make sure that the sleep mode is turned off on my computer. So I'm going to go into System Preferences, Energy Saver, and it's already there. So I'm never going to let my display go to sleep, and I'm going to keep it there. So I'm going to click on Next. You'll see on your camera, it says follow computer instructions. Then the screen will go blank. Now I'm running the update. This will take around about 10 minutes. So all you need to do is wait until this process is done. It's really important to leave everything alone at this point. I always make sure my laptop is plugged in and that nothing can knock any of the cables out. Once it's completed, it'll put this message up on the screen and it'll say finish the update. So I'll just click on finish and I'm done. The camera will switch off at the end of the process and switch back on, and then it'll just have the USB mode mass storage on the back of the camera. So now it's safe to unplug So I'm going to unplug it, and there we go. As instructed, I don't have a memory card inserted. Now I'll just check the version. So I'll go to Setup page 7 and click on Version. As you can see here, it says version 3.0. I'll OK that and come out. So now I'm just going to have a quick flick through the menus just to see what's different. That looks all the same. There we go. So in tab 1, page 4 of 14, you have interval shoot function. In here, you got interval shooting, shoot start time, the interval, number of shots, auto exposure tracking sensitivity, which is interesting, silent shoot in interval mode, and then shoot interval priority. The next one that's new is this face-eye autofocus set. Here you can change between human and animal. I'm going to keep it on human for now. Face detect frame display, animal eye display on. Face eye priority in autofocus. I'm guessing this is where you switch it on and off, so when you press your shutter button, it automatically tries to detect eyes in the shot, or maybe a face in the shot as well. This week, I'm going to test for stability in the firmware update, and I'm also going to have a play around with the intervalometer. So hopefully next week we'll have a video on this built-in intervalometer. I'm going to try it in a few different situations and see how well it works. One thing I want to know is whether I can leave my intervalometer at home now with this update, or whether I still have to bring it along. And that's about it. Firmware 3.0 does have quite a few changes. Let's just hope it's more stable than the Firmware 2.0 that was released last year. But only time will tell. As always, if you like what you see, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't, give me a thumbs down. And for weekly tutorials, hints and tips in photography and videography, subscribe and turn on notifications. I'll see you in the next one.